Yeah, it's recording right now. There you go. There you go.
Okay, 3:26. Okay. So we've been called to order. And then we will okay, so public in attendance and comment. Yeah. Okay, so what about approving the minutes? Everybody has a chance to look at the minutes. I actually had just one question about the minutes. Tom, you have found the people that you've actually hired the people that are gonna do the records, up for the cemetery. Are you still looking at
The
data
software,
data entry, the software?
the software, I believe they have purchased it. I believe they went to council for
Okay,
for
so
the
that's the
funding,
only
so
question.
that's in process.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions about the minutes from the last?
I do not.
Okay, so could have a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes.
No, second that.
See how fast we move, it isn't even 3:30 yet. So now it's your turn.
Okay,
You need to vote, Madam Chair.
oh, right, you had a motion and a second,
Oh.
just all in favor.
All in favor, sorry.
Say aye.
Aye. All in favor.
Silence is consent, so if nobody says anything.
Okay, excellent, thank you. I'll eventually be able to do it right.
Tom, did you bring your copy that
Yes,
I
I
gave
did.
you? Okay, so that means I've got enough. Take one, pass them along.
Thank you.
This actually worked out well because I'm preparing to give a report on all the various funds to the city council at their next meeting next week, so this is a part of what they'll be seeing, or they'll be seeing more than this. I'm gonna give just a little bit of background with regards to the cemetery and the funds. Forgive me if some of you know this. In the past, by virtue of the Barre City Charter, which is kind of like the city's constitution, the cemeteries were run by a cemetery commission, which was a body that had control over the cemeteries, had control over the budget, the funds, the employees, the work being done at the cemeteries. Unfortunately, what happens is that the money generated by the perpetual care funds is not enough to cover operating. And so for years, the commission was borrowing money from the city, from the general fund to pay their bills. When the size of that debt got up over $500,000, what happened is we went to the voters with a charter change in 2012, which rolled the cemeteries, all the cemeteries and the cemetery department and the debt into the general fund. It essentially forgave the debt for the cemetery commission, created a cemetery committee, an advisory body to oversee the cemeteries. And the general fund worked on eliminating the debt and did actually eliminate the debt much quicker than we had thought we were going to, thankfully. In the meantime, all the documents, all the records came to me because the funds that are held for perpetual care, you can't touch the principal, the money that has been paid into the perpetual care funds. All you can do is you can use the earnings for operating support. But we didn't know what those dollar amounts were in the 5 funds. The funds are listed here. There's a cemetery general fund, which is for general operating. There's a flower fund, a mausoleum fund, the St. Monica's fund, and the Italian Memorial Fund. But we didn't know what the values were. I did a lot of digging through the records. We weren't able to reconcile things to a point where we knew what the numbers should be. So we essentially drew a line in the sand. All of these accounts had been established at Edward Jones in 2007. And we used the numbers that were that started those accounts in 2007 as the base amount. That became our new bottom line with regards to all these accounts. Nothing, they can't be spent below the bottom line. And that's what you see as the perpetual account balance start. You see, that's what that number is there. That was approved by the council. Okay, and then there have been additions to those funds. Every time a lot is sold, 20% of the lot sale goes into the general fund, the cemetery general fund, to hopefully increase the amount of money that's being, that's available to earn to help us cover the costs associated with the expenses. Used to be, we haven't for several years, used to be that people could make a one-time payment of $2,500 to the flower fund. And hoping that the revenue from that $2,500 investment would be enough to cover a range of flower services at a particular grave site. The flower services are spelled out in the flower fund agreement. It's a basket on Memorial Day, and it's a basket on maybe on
The special birthdays, whatever the
Yeah.
purchaser requested.
Yeah. Similar with the mausoleum fund, if somebody purchased and installed a mausoleum, they made this one was a requirement. They had to make a $10,000 payment to be invested in the mausoleum fund. And the earnings out of that fund are used, again, there was an agreement that said it would be every 10 years, the mausoleum would be cleaned and repointed, and there were different maintenance things that were associated with that. Back in 2019, fiscal year 2019, it was determined that the flower fund and the mausoleum fund, they're not paying for themselves. So there wasn't an opportunity for people to make additional deposits into them. And we have scaled back quite a bit on what's done for flowers in the cemetery. And we're fortunate because we actually have quite a bit of donated both product and labor associated with flowers. So you can see here, there's a line that says transfers in from lot sales, et cetera, from 2016 through the end of the most recent fiscal year, June of this year. And we've had additions of 186,000 into the cemetery general fund. We've had additions of 21,000 into the flower fund. Bringing up the perpetual account balances before earnings to that middle line there, the 816,000, 63,000, 102, 3,000, and 17,000.
But only 186,000 of it could be spent
No,
because 629
No.
has to stay.
no, the 186,000 has been added
Yeah.
to the 600,000
Okay,
as
sorry.
money, so that it has now increased
Okay,
the unspendable amount
Okay.
to 816,000.
Yep.
So that middle line that says perpetual account balance before earnings, that is now the baseline for all those 5 accounts. Okay. The St. Monica's account was a little bit of money that came with St. Monica's when the city inherited that cemetery. No additional lots are being sold there, so there's no additional money going into that fund. The Italian Memorial Fund is the balance of money that was raised in the community to create and install the Italian stonecutter memorial that's in Denty Park at the corner of the, across from where Mr. Z's used to be. And this money is for to be used for care of the monument. And occasionally we'll take money out of there if the monument needs repairs or cleaning or things like that, So the next line down says Edward Jones balances as of the end of June. So this shows you how much is in each of those 5 accounts as of the end of June. And then when you take into consideration the unspendable balances that are that middle line, you can see the available funds from each of these is listed there in bold. So there's 120,000, 28,000, 60,000, 2,400, 14,000. So that's what's available. On an annual basis, we pull $25,000 out of the cemetery general fund to put into the city's general fund to help cover the costs associated with running the cemetery department. We pull $500 out of the flower fund, and we pull $1,500 out of the mausoleum fund. And you can see those reflected here. To give you an idea, between what we make in lot sales and what we take in from the cemetery, other services, burials and stuff like that, we take in about $130,000 towards operating of the cemetery. It costs us close to $250,000 to run. Now, that's both the cemetery and the parks department, but the majority of it is cemetery related. So we wouldn't be able to cover the costs associated with the cemeteries if we were just living on the earnings from the perpetual care accounts. So, are there any questions on that chunk?
I
Yeah.
have a question about, how these funds can be spent. And if possible, is the Italian Memorial Fund set up so that that park and that statue stays clean, stays flowered, stays mowed, is that specifically for that park?
It's
Dudley Park?
for the monument, for the.
So we have $14,349.06 available.
Yeah,
For the cleaning of that monument.
yeah, and typically when it does get cleaned, the cost is somewhere in the $800 to $1,000 range.
And is there, like insurance that you have on the?
It's
statue
covered
or
under the
anything?
city's general
Okay.
insurance. We don't
Okay.
have it, we don't have a separate
Okay,
policy for it.
thank you.
And does that include the benches as well as the monument?
Yes.
Jeff says
Oh,
yes.
oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, anything that's granite there.
And it costs how much to have it cleaned?
800, 900,
It's within
somewhere in
that
there.
range, but, each vendor varies a little bit. I think the last time we had it, I think it was the Calcans and it was
I think it was 900
$500.
bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absent something catastrophic, which none of us would like to see, that fund is gonna continue to have this relatively large amount available to spend, and we clean the monument.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I said, absent something catastrophic, which we don't wanna see, that money will just continue to grow and grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
And I think that was the moot one, that.
Was it? It was
Yeah.
I
before.
think it was it was kind of an offshoot of the Mutual. You
Yeah.
know, as we've looked at
Makes
these
sense.
funds, we've thought about it and said, 20 years from now, that number will be about 100,000.
Well, that's why I'm wondering, like, we have so many Italians buried up at St. Monica's and wondering if maybe we could possibly use some of that fund to reset stones.
Because I suspect there's an agreement somewhere, with the
There may
city.
be, I haven't seen.
and I think it was the
anything,
Mutua. Does anybody remember?
It
It was the
was,
Mutua
yeah.
that did the Italian. So if the benefactor said to the city, look, if you wanna, take 10,000 from this and shoot it up to Hope, we're okay with that.
Or I'm thinking St.
St.
Monica's,
Monica's.
because that's where we're really
Yeah.
lacking in funds and, resources.
It's always, as long as we're on the discussion, I don't wanna belabor it. But I understand, I wasn't around when the city assumed responsibility for St. Monica's, and I know that there were some people who were upset. And they thought that Willie Fisher, basically he schemed with the priests because St. Monica's couldn't afford it. And the city ended up taking it over to the disadvantage of the city. I don't even know why we keep holding, we don't hold Elmwood out, you know, they're all, I mean, like it or not. St. Monica's is a city responsibility and should be thought of as part of the. You know, so with some creative, I know St. Monica's needs some help. But you know, the cozy funds are probably gonna generate $150,000 before we even get a chance to spend them. There's no reason why the city couldn't allocate some of that interest income and shoot
Yeah.
100 grand up to St. Monica's to give that a little shot in the arm.
And that cemetery general fund covers all the cemeteries.
Right.
So that 120,000, you know, could be, a portion of that could be used for any of the cemeteries. And as far as you asked about what they can be, what it can be spent on, perpetual care, funds can be spent on essentially any kind of repairs, maintenance, upgrades, anything that the cemetery needs for that kind of stuff.
Great.
So, there are restrictions on how perpetual care funds can be invested. There is language in statute that limits, the percentage you can put in, you know, in more speculative, investments. The percentage you're supposed to carry in bonds or mutual funds or stuff like that. And Edward Jones we've been with them since '07. And are, you know, they've done, considering the restrictions and the fact that we don't want to be speculative with the money, it's not ours, we're just caretakers. They've really done a beautiful job. We've, even in bad times, you know, our average overall is somewhere in the 6 to 7% range annually, so not too bad. Any other questions with regards to the perpetual care accounts? And if you come up with questions afterwards, I am a phone call away or happy to come to another meeting or whatever, you know, whatever you need. The Richard Russell bequeath, which is the next one down, Richard Russell passed away back in 22. And he left certain funds to the city cemetery account for use at Hope Cemetery. That's the only restriction, that it is for Hope. But there's no restriction other than that, and there's no amount of that fund that needs to be maintained. So the current balance of 65,000, if you designated all of that, or if the council did, if you made a recommendation to council to designate all of that towards one particular project, and it spent it all down and it was gone, that there aren't any restrictions with regards to that, but it is set for Hope.
Is that the way we would do it? If we came up with something, we would make a recommendation to the city council, and the city council would vote on it?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
On the backside is the Cozy Hope Cemetery Fund, which of course is the newest one. And I'm sure you are all very familiar with the terms and conditions of this. The bulk of his estate, 60% was set aside for Hope Cemetery, 40% for general city usage for capital projects. The language from Mr. Cozy's will says that the Hope Cemetery funds are to be used solely for capital improvements, including but not limited to lighting, major building additions and remodeling, land development and parking lot improvements, roads and sidewalks. And then, of course, he also spoke about a fountain in his honor with his name on it. So we've started receiving funds in April of this year. The balance received to date is just under 3.1 million, and the current balance is just over just under 3.2. So,
And nothing has to be held back on that, or does it?
no, as long as it meets the restrictions as he specified in his, yeah. I don't know, cause Tom, you and I haven't had an opportunity to talk about this, but what the thoughts are with regards to the restrictions on the principal as opposed to the earnings. And whether there's any.
I think that, I mean, personally, I think there's a lot of flex, I mean, obviously, the principle is the principle. you can only use that for these amounts, and I think the interest is the Wild West.
Yeah.
If whatever the
And-
city wants to use, he just spoke to the principal.
Yeah.
Not to
The
the.
intention, the current fiscal year budget, which started the 1st of July, includes $75,000 of the interest earnings to go into the general fund for cemetery department support. So it is specific to the cemetery.
Which we've already earned.
Yeah, we're
So-
already,
Past that.
so.
Okay, so just for the slow people in the 2 million,
It's just over 3 million.
the
that's
3,000,096,100,000, whatever. That's the principal.
Yep.
Okay, and so as long as anything made on and above that, even though you're going to do subtractions, you already done a subtraction, can be used by the city without it, or will it also be used in the cemetery?
It'll be up to the council
Okay.
to do, I mean,
I
I
wouldn't
know
be a
that,
big fan of that, Star. I mean, it's okay because we all understood, we were trying to balance our budget. We all understood that this money was coming in April. We knew that the cemetery commission, there's no way the cemetery commission was gonna start a project this summer. You might pave something or something, but we knew it would, so we felt comfortable allocating the 75,000 to operations.
Yeah,
It wouldn't feel quite right to me if, for example, any city council said, we're gonna take all of the interest income and we're gonna throw it to the general fund.
yeah,
So that we can hire more cops. Not that that's been proposed.
Yeah.
But, that wouldn't feel quite right to me. It would feel a little squishy.
the other intention for the earnings from this particular fund is to cover the cost for the cemetery software. And that program that is in such desperate need.
okay,
But again, it's cemetery adjacent, so
Right.
it's not specific to cemetery capital, Hope Cemetery Capital, but it is certainly still within the world of cemetery, so it feels appropriate.
and what was the cost of the software, do you know?
It's
40-ish?
Yeah.
About 40,000.
35 to 40 for the initial year, and then I think it's 10 or 12
about
a
10.
year for the
10
annual.
for-
license.
10 annual licensing.
So,
It was gonna be just under 40 for
The
setup.
initial, yeah.
And then there's going to be the setup, which is gonna be quite exciting. Because it actually allows you to pinpoint graves.
Yeah,
And so if you're standing on a grave and you say, who's buried here? And you look up at the headstone, they better match.
Wow.
So it's, or if you, were a student or a family member doing research and you wanted to know, where's Tom Lozon buried? Should point you right at it. So it's pretty cool and long overdue. I mean, as everyone knows, we're one really bad day at the cemetery away from having no records at all.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
there were some sort of catastrophic fire, and right now they're not in a vault at all, right, Jeff?
No.
So I
thankfully,
hate it when I even say that out loud, but that's the way it is.
thankfully, the cemetery deeds, they're not up to date, but the cemetery deeds and burial transit permits are in the vault in City Hall. So, and each of those has on it the lot locations.
Okay,
So there is, but the cemetery deeds have limited information because John Smith may have bought 6 lots, but we don't know on the deed who's buried in those 6 lots. That information is in the records at the cemetery.
And they're on computers, but anything else, back before computers, if they never got entered, because they had people just entering nilly-willy when they could. So some of those old yellow cards are still up in that building, and if they lose those, that information's gone forever.
Now, what would it take to gather all that together and put it in a safe place instead of not doing anything?
they're actually gonna be taking the maps and doing the data
Yeah, you can
entry.
take that.
From there.
We'll take the cards from there and they'll be entered in.
And where's that physically gonna happen? They gonna be in City Hall or where are they gonna be doing? No.
I mean, they'll have to because
They'll look- probably
either that
will
or
have
right
a
here.
vacant office. Just find a vacant office somewhere and they'll set up a couple workstations and just sit there and just start typing.
And how long is that gonna take to do? Any idea?
No clue.
Okay.
Jeff, what do you
They
think?
were Doing it.
Yeah.
Not a small,
They were
No,
talking
no,
No.
6 months probably with the cemetery, the software. By the
When
time they
we-
build the cemeteries into it and then
They
we would
started
have to.
before I got here, and, the lady that was doing it, it was a full-time job for her. She used to, what was her name? She sat in that desk right at the front window.
Oh,
Well, anyway, she
Shane
was
had
doing
done it.
tours and stuff too, and trying to enter during the day, and it was just, it was a tedious thing. You know, 3 or 4 people, put them in this room or a room across the hall,
Knock it out.
knock it out. I mean, depends on how good you are at typing.
how many graves at Hope?
10,000?
10,000.
Yeah, so imagine, you've gotta put a name. I think the software has fields for like last known address, you don't have to put it in, but you gotta, just imagine, you gotta verify the lot that you're entering, then you gotta put in the name, then you gotta put in date of birth, then you gotta put in date of death, and multiply that by 10,000.
Probably should be tied back to the deed.
Or-
Yeah.
whatever the deed is.
So, and if you're careful and you're referencing it,
You know, so.
you know,
Probably do
in a really
Why not?
perfect world, you'd probably be 15 minutes per entry, if you're really checking things.
Yeah.
So 15 times
You know,
equals 150,000 minutes divided by 60,
Divided by 60.
2,500 hours. So if you work in the state of Vermont, 2 years.
Or Hope.
Intern job for me.
Hope alone.
Yeah.
That's Hope.
That's just all.
That's not
Hope.
Elmwood, that's not St. Monica's, that's not.
And like Saint Monica's, the records that we have for Saint Monica's
are
are,
strong.
are,
Yeah.
yeah, so there may be, time needed to research and people going up and actually looking at the stone and I'm assuming that there must be a photo component where you can literally tie a photo of the stone
I believe
into the
so.
software.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
would be great, so somebody will need to go around and plot all the pictures, but that'll be really helpful.
And you can look at it online, so, when we
Yeah.
talked about it, there's probably gonna be a point in time where we really ask folks to help out, like especially with St. Monica's, and say, we know a name, it's right there on the headstone, we know the location, we don't know anything else about these people, and we may ask people to go online, or we may have some graves that aren't marked, we know that that's the case with a few of them, so it's gonna be.
Well, and particularly when you get into the Spanish flu,
Mhm.
that whole section where there's, there are graves that don't have any markings.
Right.
So,
So will all the bills for the computerization of you're doing all the cemeteries, will that come out of the general fund reimbursed by, say, well, you could reimburse, well, actually, this one has to be Hope, but you could reimburse out of cozies?
Mhm.
Is that the
out of
plan?
the earnings.
Out of earnings?
If you
Are they
get a little
earning?
creative, like I said, if St. Monica's needed 100 grand worth of work.
Yeah,
And the cozy fund, even though the principal in the cozy fund can only be used at Hope,
yeah,
period.
yeah,
If it earned 100,000 in interest,
yeah,
I, for one, if the cemetery commission said, hey, this is what we wanna do, take this 100 grand in interest and spend it at St. Monica, I wouldn't necessarily have an objection to that.
okay.
That would feel okay, it's all
It's cemetery
cemetery
related,
related.
okay, and so you would say the same thing about paying for this computer program that we
Yeah,
put together?
why not?
Okay, and I wouldn't either, I just was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing, I mean, that's really important.
Very important.
That has tremendous.
And maybe
value.
I've asked this, is there a kiosk that goes with this that we need to be thinking about building?
It's not, it's
Oh, is it all online?
It's not a kiosk,
Okay.
it's all, you can go online.
Okay, go
It's
on.
all right here.
Oh, okay, right, that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally
Yeah.
be at Hope and, you know,
You can download,
Richard
you can get an app,
Yeah,
click on it,
yeah,
Take you right down.
yeah.
download it.
We purchased it?
We're in the process.
We're in the
Okay.
process of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when do we anticipate actually having the software?
I believe
Accessible.
they're looking at going active, I think July 1st next year
Okay, okay.
is the ultimate hope.
That's once we get going on it, I'll make sure that everyone here gets kind of an update.
Yeah.
So as we get updates at the council, I'll make sure I pass them along to you so you can, I'm sure there'll be opportunities too when the vendor will be here. Probably in Barre, and if any of you wanna wander down and say, hey, show me how this works, I'm sure they'd be happy to,
That'd be great.
or we could just arrange a demonstration for the
Yeah.
cemetery commission.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, we could have a special meeting for that, we just would
Mhm.
warn a meeting and. Right?
Yeah.
So will you be responsible as?
I'm not responsible for anything.
Anymore. Well, how will everything be kept track of that we've spent? That we have, this money can be used for this money's gonna be.
Carol is responsible.
Oh, Carol is responsible. You were being fun.
I was being funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I work very closely, I mean, over the years, I've managed the central bond funds.
Yeah.
It's the same, very similar kind of stuff and other kinds of funds that we've had, and yes, I track it on my end, it's also tracked by the finance department.
Okay,
And then usually at least a couple times a year, we compare our books to make sure that we agree, because a lot of times what has to happen is we have to move money. If we spend like the 25,000 that gets transferred from the general fund, cemetery general fund into the general fund for operating support. I have to actually move the money from point A to point B,
Yeah.
and we have to make sure that everybody agrees, yep, we've got the money, we've got to, move it over, and they have to accept it on their end, and. When we make expenses, we have to make sure it's, out of the right code.
Right,
And
yeah,
set up
right
all
accounting.
this, yeah, so, yeah.
excellent.
I have a question.
Yeah.
During the time, speaking of to the software, during the time between now and activation, will there be a team of people or an opportunity to make sure Smith is here, the monument Smith is here, but there's a Smith there? Because we just did a software in Winooski, and we went into the cemetery and mapped everything that was on the stone. And then researched that, and we found that 15% of the people were not there. They bought the stone, bought the plot, but there's no one buried there, and I don't know how you would put that into software. How do we know that what we're looking at a card bought 50 years ago?
Maybe
is
there's like a
what's there.
space for like interned and not interned or something like that.
I didn't.
Well,
that detail
vacant-
into it.
Vacant grave sites would be marked as such, there's no one there. The biggest issue that we have is what if there's someone there and we don't know it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's, we have to err more on that side than,
then we have.
there's
That's
gonna be a
problem
lot of
with
errors, I mean, just, it's a big, it's thousands and thousands of grave sites. Some that are occupied and we don't know who is there,
Right.
some that we think someone's there, but it's not occupied. So there's gonna be a lot of checking, and probably 5-10 years from now, they're still gonna be finding errors.
But just in the website, if you look at the cemetery, the occupied ones are shown in one color.
Okay.
The purchased ones, but unoccupied are in another color, and then the open for sale ones are in another color.
okay.
So you can look at the cemetery and go, oh, there's a lot. I like that spot.
Yeah,
I'm interested in that pot.
Oh, that's cool.
I like what you're saying though, Rennie, about maybe forming a team of people now or soon and using the year that we have to do a lot of the legwork on it.
They sent us an Excel template that you can put out all the information in, and then they can upload that, and they can import
We
that.
don't really need to wait for the software.
We don't really need to wait, we could get started on that. As soon as we get the purchase agreement, I guess we could get started on it.
Mhm.
They send us the template, we could start filling it in. And,
What about some, oh, sorry, what about some kind of handheld unit that you go to the site with and you fill stuff in?
You can,
We did that at the Barre committee, that's what we do with all
your phone,
Yeah.
if you have a hotspot,
Yeah,
you can use your phone and
yeah,
with, you know, as long as you
Yeah.
have permission, you can
Yeah.
populate it.
yeah,
Um, it's, yeah, it's just something we wanna be real careful. I mean, at the end of the day, everything has to reference back to the deed, so the deed is the starting point. Because that's the best information we have. You know, because someone, you know, they paid for it, they signed it, the clerk signed it. That's the best information we have,
Okay.
and then hopefully, you know, like I said, I'm sure we're gonna struggle. When we find, oh, you know, it says right here that people are interred here, but they're not. So, but someone still owns the lot or the plot, so you can't sell it because we
Right.
already sold it to someone.
And there are anomalies. We've got, you know, I know during my tenure, we've got we've got lots where a family purchased a lot and buried somebody right then and there and never paid us anything.
oh,
So there's no deed. And there's no legal anything associated with the person who's in the ground. There is somebody in the ground. You know, we've got the card associated with it, but doesn't tie back to a deed. You know, so.
How that's possible.
That's great. Well, you.
In the meantime,
Surprise.
Yeah. in the meantime, as far as these records, can they be put in a safer place than up there in the building?
I haven't been up to the cemetery building, so I don't know what sort of. I mean, we don't, there's no, you know, short of renting a storage unit. There's nothing that the city owns that. You know, I mean, we just were
yeah, there's nothing that's.
to the
more,
rafters in city hall.
Document
so.
friendly than where it is, in any place we have to move it is gonna be. You know, it's gonna be as damp, if not more. It's,
Mm.
you know, it's a,
Well, and having the records right there is helpful, if that's where we're gonna be doing the
Yeah.
work, so.
yeah, that's,
Yeah.
that, Donnie's been doing the input for many years now, so. And they're right there, he's right there. He can put them in, take care of them.
Mhm.
It's convenient for the process. May not be the best place to store them, but it's the most convenient for the process.
Hey Carol, as I look at these funds, the St. Monica's Fund, is that
Hmm.
a specific amount where St. Monica's gave the city $3,000 and said, here you go?
I inherited all of it.
I mean, I look at the
So
Italian Memorial, I get it, I understand why
Yeah.
it's a separate fund, certainly the Mausoleum Fund, people paid, no problem. Flower Fund, even though we haven't done a great job, leave it alone. You got but is there any reason why the
St. Monica
Russell
isn't,
account, the Russell account and the St. Monica Fund couldn't be folded into the general fund? Not that I would ever think we don't do something special for Mr. Russell. It was very generous of him to give the cemetery, you know, $51,000. But is there any way, just from an accounting point of view, so we're not looking at all these funds and it's like, look, you just got the cemetery general fund, so.
Yeah, the only reason that with regards to the Russell, because he was very specific that that it's hope only. To put it in with the general fund, then commingles it in such a way that it would be, I mean,
Could
to
you put it
me,
in with the cozy
to-
money? that's hope as well. Then you don't have,
Potentially, or, you know, it's $65,000, find a project, spend it. I mean, really, it's not a ton of money, you know, make it your down payment on the fountain, all the fountain doesn't have to come out of.
Mhm.
Mr. Cozy's money, I mean, you know, I think that's the thing to do with the Russell stuff, is spend it.
Yeah.
And
what
then-
about the St. Monica's?
The St. Monica's, I don't know the terms and conditions that came with that. I have no idea how to dig, I mean, you know, I know from trying to reconcile the numbers when we inherited the cemetery stuff in 2012 that, you know, trying to find anything, I have no idea whether that, I mean, it's odd that it's an exact amount. You know, that it's $3,000. To me, that sounds like something that somebody, you know, specifically said, here's $3,000 just for the maintenance of St. Monica's.
Right.
You know, it feels,
Which
Really
which won't come close.
yeah,
So rather than have it sort of stick out there like a sore thumb, could we even go back to the diocese and say, you know, here's our numbers. Do you have an objection if we fold this 3,000 into our, you know, we recognize that it's our obligation to maintain the cemetery, but we got this, you know, it's all an accounting exercise.
Right.
Could we just take the 3,000, fold it into the, you know, general fund and,
you know, we could guarantee them that we would absorb it as perpetual care money. So
Yeah.
it would get added to the perpetual care rather than just spending down the 3,000. It
Right.
just would be one less account that we have to deal with. So I think that's.
anyone have any objection to Carol doing that,
No.
looking into that?
Would anybody know who I would talk to at the diocese?
You probably,
Easier just
Yeah.
to spend it at.
Well, we
St.
can't.
Monica's?
well, you'd probably just start,
We can't spend it,
Because
it's perpetual care money.
Oh,
I mean, you know, Dan Pudva, you know Dan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could even start with Dan, he's a deacon, but
Right.
close enough. Eventually, what it would have to do is work its way up to the diocese in
Yeah.
Burlington. And then they'd say, yeah, that's fine with me, and that's that.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
could spend 2464 though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is peanuts in the
Mhm.
scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm,
But you're also gonna have the cozy interest
yep,
at your disposal, and, you know, that's not going to be insignificant. I mean, it's gonna be a few $100,000 anyway before you all get to the point where you're building a fountain,
mhm.
that, you know, that's gonna generate 150,000 a year in interest.
The fountain and the things related to the fountain will come out of the principal.
Correct.
Yes,
So it's like two, okay, I just wanna be sure I understand.
I mean, technically, he was pretty broad.
Mhm.
If you had, you know, if you wanted to pave the roads in Hope, if you wanted to maintain the roads, which technically is part of the cemetery maintenance,
Yeah.
that's not really an improvement, but he was specific, like, no, if you wanna pave roads, that's
It's a capital
fine.
improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course, we didn't pay them that long ago with Semper Bond money.
With Semper
did we?
Bond.
Right.
yeah,
One of the things that I thought was that the Russell money could be prorated with regards to the software. Cause if you figured, you know, how many lots are how many graves are in Hope, how many are in Elmwood, how many are at St. Monica,
Right.
and whatever percentage Hope is, you cover the software, the down payment, the 40,000 that it's gonna cost us, you take that right out of the Russell money.
yeah.
Mhm.
Cause that, you know, that would be,
Well, it would make the sheet a little simpler, right, at some point? Your sheet would look,
you know, so that's, I mean, that's something to
Mhm.
think about with
Mhm.
regards, and I actually, it's one of the things I plan on talking to the council about when I'm there next week, to go
Mhm.
over all the funds.
Yep.
Cause we'll be talking about, you know, all the Semper Bond and the
Mhm.
Brusa and the, you know, we'll be going through the whole list, so.
Mark, you had said, that there was money that was, given from a family, for at least 1 year for improvements at Elmwood. Where's the,
Yeah, that wasn't for me.
oh,
that,
Somebody,
for Juliana,
Maybe Giuliano, yeah.
Oh,
think it was
oh, I
Giuliano.
was thinking it was
There was,
you.
there's like
Oh,
40-something thousand.
Yeah.
that was.
Or was that
That was
you?
me.
Okay.
Oh.
That long ago?
That-
Yeah, God,
Oh, you're a funny
you've
guy.
been here too long.
The Abbeys, the Abbey
Okay.
family.
Oh.
They're part of the Robbins family, the big tall monument on the back row of Elmwood.
Yeah.
And they gave us 20,000 and Calcanny went through and fixed what they figured was $20,000 worth of monuments. Kale, after that, made a map of the next round. But somewhere when I got done, there was no communication with the Abbeys. So I think it's just a matter of maybe having Kale get hold of them and see if they're still interested.
He only did 20,
He did 20,000.
and they had offered how much?
As much as it took to get
Oh.
them all fixed.
That's what you like,
So the money that they gave
Was used.
some of it, some of it.
Yeah, so what he did, Kale
Some
figured
of
out how many he could do for
All of it,
20,000.
all of
So
it was
where's the
used
rest
that
of
first
it?
year.
Right,
All of
and he
it.
used all 20, fixed $20,000 worth, and then they said, get us another list for another 20,000 and you get them done and we'll pay you.
Okay,
So it behooves you to talk to to Matt Calcanny.
okay.
So that money never went through the city. I mean, it was just a direct payment to.
They paid
the-
Calcanny.
Yeah, okay.
A direct payment to Calcanny's.
Okay. All right, so
Shabby family.
Yes, Donald and Robin.
Is it Y or EY?
I think it's just why,
Just
I
one.
think so.
I can talk to Mateo about that.
Yeah. So on the mausoleum fund,
oh,
so that's where we put. You put it in the general fund.
1,500 a year goes
And
into
we
the,
do, and what you do with that, 1,500 gets you either two of the smaller mausoleums. But if it's something like,
The Benetti.
Vanetti's, that'll probably eat up that 1,500 in one year.
and we can certainly obviously, pull more out of there if
Yeah.
we specifically had. A large mausoleum that needed to be done, or there was a lot of repair that needed to be done on a particular one,
Mhm.
we can, there's 60,000 of available
Yep.
money in there, so, yeah. And that's relatively new, the $1,500 transfer to the general fund only started in fiscal 24.
Right.
So, yeah, this is just the third year that we're doing that one.
why would you only just do one or
He
two?
goes by.
The way they look.
How big the mausoleum is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they look pretty good, right? Or
Yeah,
I've
I
got-
mean,
yeah,
it says in the mausoleum deed,
yeah,
once every 10 years.
okay, okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Carol.
Yeah,
That's very
good
helpful.
news. It's all good news.
Yes.
Tom's now got a preview of at least the first
There you go.
few pages of actually, I think I started with December month. So.
Oh, did you?
So, yeah. That'll be an interesting discussion.
Good.
I
Yep.
think the council should, reopen the discussion of the 500,000 that's in the bequest fund that was earmarked for the bike path.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Always willing to listen. Can't say I'll change my mind.
Sure.
So now we know how much you have. and How you gonna spend it?
Right, that's our next.
I look forward to hearing, some great ideas, so. And I look forward to seeing the designs for the fountain.
Yes, that's gonna be actually exciting.
I know that's been on the wish list for quite a while, so.
But now we
To
can
have the
actually do it.
funds, yeah, so. Okay,
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
good to talk to you.
Good to see you.
Have a nice evening, Carol.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to cozy request projects. We wanna thank Jeff for coming and agree
And agree.
to be something. We haven't determined what your real type, you're using a point person right now, but we don't. So, I had a thought about it and I guess I'll just throw it out there. We can develop a working group to do this project and work with you.
Mhm.
I've talked to Mark about it. And other members of committee can volunteer for the working group. Not everybody can be on it, because it's not gonna be the whole entire standing committee. It's gonna be a working group.
Right.
And it could definitely include, Mark was saying, people from the outside that might be helpful to figuring out what we're doing. And I don't know how you'd feel about, would you feel comfortable leading the working group if we decided to do a working group? We'd have to vote on and all that, I know, but
What would you want the working group to do?
I would like the working group to develop the plan for the fountain. We are from 0 to 60, we're going from 0 to 60. So. There's a lot of moving pieces even to the beginning of it.
It might also be that. 2 or 3 ideas
Okay,
were developed,
yeah,
because there's a lot of creativity out in this town, as we've all said. And we wanna make sure we tap into
Yeah.
that somehow, some way. So somebody might come up with something that's totally outrageous, that's incredible, that nobody's ever thought of before, so, but we gotta get that
yeah,
committee to get
yeah,
out there to that group of people.
yeah,
That working group would be responsible for, advertising, generating ideas, collecting those ideas, figuring out how to get things off or into the ground.
yeah,
And they would refer back to this committee.
yeah, they would report back. And I think at different times, other people on the committee, like, say for me, my background's in power, right? So that I could be helpful in when it comes to, okay, so what are we doing about getting the power over here? And I was talking to Eileen about it. I said, first you gotta know what you even have for an horsepower in the fountain to know what you have for options that you can do. You mean, you can see where the power is. You gotta get it to the location, but you also gotta consider the aesthetics of the cemetery. You don't necessarily want some big huge pad mount there. You gotta figure out what you can do to make it work. And so there's so many moving parts to it. But then I might step in to help, to say, okay, I'll get Green Mountain Power to come up and we'll look at that would be but I wouldn't be part of a working group all the time.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a permanent position.
No, actually, working groups are temporary. They're considered to be temporary and have something that they are specifically working on.
Okay.
So no, wouldn't be forever.
And usually a set schedule, Heather, so it would be, and it might be, for the working group, it might be weekly. It might be, look, we're gonna meet every Tuesday at 4:30 until, usually, do we have a spare office somewhere? Anywhere in this building, or a spare room?
Just have these meeting rooms up here.
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to commandeer one, it's temporary in duration.
Yeah,
But I think of things like, okay, you get a proposal from someone, where is it? It really needs to be kept somewhere central, so everyone can get their hands on it if we need it, as opposed to saying, oh, Star's gonna hang on to everything.
right,
And then Star's car gets broken into and
Right.
we don't have anything at all. So, have a room where if they wanna send a proposal, they send it to Tom's attention. He hands it off
You could
and,
do a Dropbox or
Yeah.
Google Docs or something
yeah.
that multiple people could access and work on.
I mean, would we have some kind of, this is a contest to try to come up with a design? And at this point, we actually would have some cash to have a cash prize.
Yeah, I think you need to,
Right?
really need to paid whoever it is. that
Yes.
Designs this, I mean, this is a big
Yes.
project, you can't expect anybody to just
Yeah.
design for it.
Oh, no.
Well, I certainly wouldn't say don't pay, I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, to just get maybe some interest.
Well, you're gonna need an engineering firm, no matter
Yes,
what.
okay,
Yeah,
That's kind of where you're gonna have to start to get the lay of the land to
right,
develop to the site.
right,
Then figure out, okay, what are we doing on the site?
right,
But you gotta get all that done ahead of
even
time.
if you have a contest, you have to have parameters.
yeah,
And we don't have those
No.
parameters yet.
no,
You need to know your location right off. Where is it gonna be? Is it gonna be at the flagpole? Is
yeah,
it big enough there? You gotta figure that out first. How big of a fountain you're looking at before you say, we're gonna put it where the flagpole is.
Mhm.
Now, get your size, get your site, and then you can, then looking at your utilities.
yeah, well, I think we were talking about kind of doing away with the flagpole, I think this is what we're talking about, incorporating that monument somehow into this fountain, so that there's one thing and we're using all of that space
Mhm.
as you enter.
Yeah,
Now, we did talk about the fact that it's pretty narrow, Mark's thing is here somewhere, pretty narrow, and possibly, I know this sounds like, maybe we could even do something with the road around it. The road doesn't, except for the stuff that's confining there, like there is some monuments there, but anything that besides that, maybe we could move it out to go more of a circle. We talked about 6,000 probably things, but
Are there people who tell you if you could, I mean, when I
yeah,
wanna cite a building,
yeah,
I call a civil engineer.
right,
And they'll say, you want it this way because of this, and looking at the contour of the land, now, Tom, you definitely wanna push. So they'll look at things like south facing, they'll
Yeah.
look at. Just so are there people that will help with that? Not necessarily, I really like the idea of floating the site out to so many talented people in the area.
yeah,
I like that idea about giving everyone an opportunity, and yes, it would be paying.
yes,
We wanna see your conceptual sketch, but if we really like, what you're doing, then obviously, then you go on the payroll.
Yeah.
We like but before you even, do you confine it that much, or do you say a fountain somewhere in Hope Cemetery, or does that get too crazy? I love the idea of where the flagpole is, because I just envision coming through the gateway, and it's just this magnificent,
Yeah.
25 foot, water fountain. I love that idea. But then again, I'm not allowed to pick colors at home either.
yeah.
So a lot of times what I think is magnificent,
Yeah,
honestly, when a professional shows something to me, I realize that that's why I'm an accountant.
yeah.
So,
Well, so Mark you were talking to a firm that does fountains for cemeteries? Is that the kind, I mean,
Well, you need, again,
yeah,
you gotta pick your site,
yeah. Okay.
get your engineering done to know what you're getting into for the site. Then at the same time, be saying, okay, what are we gonna do on the site? And that's where you have your contest and whatever, and make a choice eventually. I personally think that the monument that's up there, the War Memorial presently in
Yeah.
place, is very small.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
accommodate anything like we're talking about. It's gonna look like it doesn't belong.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I would think we'd consider
really,
doing something a little more expansive on the same vein.
yeah. In the same area or no?
I think it would be nice because you have a monument in place now. It's just you would expand it. And I haven't really gone up and studied the monument. I just know it's small. It's not big, it's not impressive. I mean, Eugene did some pretty nice stuff, and I think he probably would not be against looking at improving that site with its original intent with the fountain.
Okay, yeah, no, right,
But I think that all belongs in that committee. I think that's
Yeah.
where that all gets talked out.
Yeah.
it comes together as far as, here's a suggestion or two, come
Yeah.
back here to everybody and sound it out.
What about if you didn't do it in this, right there, but you did it in that open space? You know, as you drive up, where there are no stones,
On the right.
not on
On
the,
the front lawn?
is that the future section?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, on the lawn, I would guess so,
It would be imbalanced.
okay.
And I stood there thinking, if we did it, it would make me feel not comfortable to see it off balance.
Okay,
Well,
that's fine.
The main entrance doesn't line up.
It
with the
doesn't line up,
flagpole, But it's
But
off to
once
the
you're
side
in,
anyways.
the entrance is behind you, and then you see the flagpole. And looking at it, it didn't seem,
What?
I mean, cause I've looked at a lot of fountains since we started this. And, I think stuff that we could afford. I mean, Mark's telling me what cost $1 million and it's this little nothing.
Well, yeah,
so-
there's nothing to you, cause you didn't have to make it.
But, can I add this
What?
now?
Oh,
That I wanted to add before, cause Mark said, I thought your idea about including the memorial to the service people. And I don't know whether Eugene.
was
must
he a
have been in the
vet, do we
service.
know?
Is he a
Don't
vet?
know.
Was Eugene
Uh,
better?
He was.
Oh.
was.
Yeah, he served in
So this
Vietnam.
would
Oh.
fit in, and so I found some more pictures. But this is probably, I think, my favorite memorial in the whole world is this. And it's overseas. And it's called the Lion of Lucerne. It's in Lucerne, Switzerland. And this is, well, here. You don't have to look at the pictures on the back. I just didn't take them apart. And it was actually Mark Twain that passed this down. It was actually Mark Twain in 1880 that wrote in his book of travels that this is the monument that stirred his heart. And it was in memory of the Swiss Guard that now guard the Pope, and they have for hundreds and hundreds of years. And at the time when this memorial was made back in 1872, that the Swiss Guard had gone through the French Revolution guarding the King of France. And there was 800 men died that day. So this is their war memorial toward that. And I just stood there thinking, I know this is gigantic. It's carved into a quarry wall on a private piece of land. And then the city of Lucerne actually bought this land, and now and then Mark Twain wrote about it. And now people come to see it by the thousands. And it's very moving, very emotional. And I think, I didn't know Eugene Cozy at all, but I think something that would be emotional and moving and touching, something like that, included in
The fountain.
this fountain would be a wonderful idea
Mhm.
to do.
You have good taste,
Thank you, Mayor.
expensive taste.
So how do you go about, so we've talked about the
Yeah,
area. I mean, what I'm hearing is that no one seems to be objecting to something semi front and center.
right.
How would you go about, what would you contact? Civil engineer and say, you use Google Maps, get us something with dimensions that we can start handing out to people saying, this is what we're looking for and here's your canvas.
The civil engineer would be responsible for working with our point person to make sure that the infrastructure could be developed in a way that we need it to be to accommodate the weight of it, the water, the electricity, like all the utilities. That's gonna be.
That's as far as getting utilities there, it shouldn't be that bad, cause most of them are right there on 14.
Right.
Yeah, they're across the road.
Yeah,
though.
just across the road, so that's not gonna be a.
Yeah, they're accessible, but the biggest problem for us is gonna be the aesthetics of it. If we were just in or like a industrial park or something and you just bring the pad in, you'd have no problem. It's the aesthetics of how we'll have that equipment in this beautiful area.
Probably have to do it in an underground vault.
See, so there's other things too.
Well, see, this is what I'm saying. Here's another whole thing. The power company won't own that. So there's but go ahead. That's a whole, yeah.
If this thing comes the way we think it will come, it'll be very impressive and people will want to see it.
Yes,
There's parking issues.
yes,
There's all sorts of things about traffic. We think you got traffic now,
yeah,
you do something like this and it's really spectacular, it's gonna double the traffic
Yeah.
or triple it. So you gotta think about all that kind of thing too.
yeah.
Where are we gonna put everybody?
Yeah, and the problem we have is a lot of the people who wanna see it are not very ambulatory.
Mhm.
You know, like, it's not like we can park them up to that, you know, that little trailer that's up there that the city. I think that's owned by the city, that is,
Yes.
somebody lives there, but, okay, so there's that area up there. You could make parking up there, but it's not very good for people that
That's-
can't walk.
That's 2 lots away from the main entrance.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
It's like 2 lots away from the main entrance.
Right, but
Yeah.
I'm saying if you're looking for parking, but not, yeah. When you were talking to you had the guy that you knew and he kind of said. That we weren't anywhere near being able to. Even come to him to say, cause wouldn't they have the civil engineers?
No,
It
he
would-
was,
okay.
what he said, he could have helped us and just marked up somebody else's work.
Yeah.
He brought us to the real people who do the work for the
Okay.
fountains. So he said, you know, we're a landscape company.
Okay,
If we wanna do some special landscaping
Okay.
relative to a cemetery, they've done work for Hope Cemetery before.
okay,
And I remember way back when in the eighties and whatever, they were kind of on retainer every year to do a little bit of work with the cemetery through the BGA.
okay, yeah,
So, but anyway, he just said, Don said to me, he said, you don't want to talk to us, you want to talk to these guys.
yeah, okay.
So that's how I got there. So, you know, what that's gonna entail is a meeting with somebody from there. They're gonna want some sort of retainer. It became evident that they weren't gonna do it for nothing. But they would have lots of things that we could look at that are existing already, or some ideas themselves. I said, would you come up? They said, yes.
Okay,
You know, but again, I think what Jeff needs to do is establish this other committee,
it's a group, working group,
put up a bunch of points about how we're gonna do this, and then maybe within that committee, people go off in little tangents and come back
okay, yeah,
to just bring in, okay, this is what I found, this is what I found out, and then hopefully in 4 months' time, all of
Yeah.
a sudden, we might have a tiny bit of an idea what we wanna do for a path for the contest. But
yeah,
I think we gotta get off our butts,
yeah,
cause you know, we had said we were thinking 2027, and some
Yeah.
people said we'd rather do it in 2026. Well, that ain't gonna happen.
no,
And 2027 is not far away right now.
right,
Right.
So if we want it in
No, I agree,
2027,
Mark.
we gotta go right now.
You know, you gotta get going and just. You know, Eugene's vision was like. He was a pretty frugal man,
Mm,
but he did spend, you know, $750,000 on a mausoleum. At the end of his life and. You know, when he and I would chat and I said, okay, so if somebody built $1 million fountain, you wouldn't be pissed. And he'd be like, no. I mean, that's what he wanted. He didn't want to restore the existing fountain down in
Okay,
downtown. Not at all.
no,
He wanted something pretty significant.
spectacular,
And
Yeah,
because
and he
did that
wanted
very-
his name on it, but he didn't mind sharing it with others.
yeah.
Mm.
Well, so we are all agreed that we do wanna do it as you go in the front gate where
It's the only place.
that's the only place, so at
Right.
least we know that. So, okay, so I'm just gonna say, so what if we paid those people that you know to come up here and give us an idea of what we're looking at to start, just get us started thinking about the things that we have to think about to do
Yeah,
this.
I think you gotta get this subcommittee together first. Identify all those things, and yes, that needs to happen. For sure.
They wanna see that we've made the
Yeah,
plan.
they're not gonna wanna
Before they
come up
wanna-
and say, what if? You know,
Yeah.
they're gonna wanna
They
say,
wanna see
okay,
what we want.
alright, this is the parameters of exactly where we want it to be. We're not
Mhm.
sure of the shape. Do you have any ideas on that? We're not sure how high we want the water to blast up. We gotta think about all that stuff. You know, cause if you want a 20-foot, 5-foot high, well, you're gonna need a pretty good pump.
Yeah,
You're gonna need something that really could go. And they're gonna wanna, okay, winter time, what's happening? We're gonna have to shut it down and service it and have that all ready to go, and there'll be a lot of questions, but I think Jeff or whoever ought to, Tom is very adept to what Mr. Cozy wanted. I think somebody ought to just get a committee together and start. I don't think the committee should have so many boundaries. Myself personally, I think there's people out there that might be able to help in and out of a committee for certain things, for certain parts of it. But it's gotta start with a small group that splinters out.
I'm down with that.
Okay, so,
So Mark, you wanna serve, I can tell.
I would.
So Jeff, obviously you
Yeah.
want, Star, you want to.
well,
Anyone else? And I think you should limit it to 4.
well, see, I think that I should be one that comes in and out. And I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but if you think it's only gonna be 4 people, I think we got a
Well,
lot of talent.
You're gonna ask, Matt Calcanny, you may ask Matt. to come in. Vinny even
Yeah,
I mean, these are people who, this is what they do. They set, they've seen a lot of things. Someone like Heather, I mean,
yeah, that's what I.
so you ask people to sort of zoom in and out, but you've gotta have 1 or 2
Ye-
consistent
Right,
people. You retired,
yeah,
hey. So I think it would make sense to have, you and Jeff be okay, you're gonna be the constant, and you may have 4 or 5 from this group who may, come in and out, that's fine.
I think Mark, though, I really feel like, Mark, you really need to be on this.
I'll do it. I'd be
Okay.
happy to.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
and
back
as
to
far as
my,
knowing what Eugene wanted, I don't.
yeah,
I knew Eugene for decades, but shocked the hell out of me when he spent $750,000 on a mausoleum too.
Not a
So,
month.
no, we never had we never had a specific discussion about what it should look like, or the closest we ever came is when Karen and Eugene and I were having, and Karen loves fountains. Like, I've always denied her a fountain on every building project we've ever done, and that's all she ever asked for. And that's really probably when she was like, oh, we could shoot up. And where it was, and they really had a discussion. But other than that, he never said, no, I want it to look like this, I want it to be this, I want it to be that. The only discussion we really ever had, Mark, was, okay, Eugene, so if they spent $1 million on a fountain, you wouldn't feel like they wasted your money? Nope. And that was it.
I just want, if we're gonna spend it, let's make sure it's very impressive.
I agree.
I think tying it into a veterans memorial, I think having the 2 of them combined would be really.
I think that's a great idea too.
Yeah,
Okay, so I just wanna go back to something you said. We're not a what if. We know we have the funds to do this. That makes us not a what if. So my feeling about it is, maybe it's because I don't feel like I'm on my strength position here, but is that we get those people that you were talking to. We know the spot, we know our goal, and we say, tell us, we pay them, and we say, so tell us what the issues are with doing it here. That's my whole thing, it's because they don't.
I was hoping Jeff could tell us that,
But is the,
as a point
Well,
person.
is the plot big enough for?
Well, that's the first thing. I'm gonna go tomorrow, I'm gonna measure that whole area. We know the water is on that side of the road. Power is on the
Yeah.
opposite side of the
Yeah.
road. But they would underground it anyway.
Yeah, it would definitely be underground,
So you might have a vault, like, way down the road.
you could.
And then-
but you get the other issue. It really slopes down in the
Right,
back where that monument is way down from the top height of the land. I bet you it's 6 feet. And that's all gotta be taken care of somehow,
yeah,
leveled off
yeah,
at some common thing, it's, the site needs to be engineered.
yeah,
But, and then, okay, I mean, we could talk to a fountain company, say, look, we're gonna engineer a site right here, and it's gonna be this big approximately.
yeah,
Then they could come up with something maybe, but I think, again, your fountain company's gonna come up with the guts of the fountain,
Right.
okay? They're not gonna do the granite work. It's gonna
No.
be people, and as far as the artistry or the design of it, I think the idea would be to put it out to
Yeah.
talented people here.
Mhm.
So the fountain people really are only gonna be about the fountain. They're
Right.
gonna be about how to make this fountain work well for what the purpose is. We gotta come up with a purpose here.
Right.
So
Yeah,
did they do the, like, the traffic? Like when you call a civil engineer and you site a building.
yeah,
And you say, look, okay, here's what I gotta have. I gotta have not, and I don't think we need 50 parking spaces. I've gotta have 50 parking spaces. I've gotta be able to get a semi truck, with a trailer around the space. It's gotta be able to circulate through the space. So would it be a civil engineer or the fountain company that would say, okay, I see the area you got here, guys. I see what your vision
It's the
is.
engineer.
But if you're trying to get traffic around this circle and back out again, you gotta shrink. Here's the area you got to work with.
Right.
And you got power right up here in the road, that's not even an issue, you got water up here, that's just money, that's not getting it, it's just money, guys.
You're gonna want the civil engineer to
Yeah,
get up
you-
there.
You may want to, like, for instance, again, when you take a right at Andreoletti and head down that way,
mhm,
you may wanna widen that
Right.
whole road all the way down to
Right.
be able to accommodate parking for people to come to the fountain.
right,
Because everything's tight.
Take some of those front lawns, and widen the road on each side. But
So do you
especially on the
start,
top.
so do you start with a civil engineer and get a DeWolf?
I
or
think so.
Get somebody up there and say,
Yeah.
look, we want, like I have at home of the North End, I have a 6 foot by 10 foot
Mhm.
picture, satellite of the North End. That I look at all the time and think about what we could, so did they do something like that? And then,
Mhm.
draw a road in,
Yeah.
we gotta get tour buses in, if we could get parking,
That's
that
what
would be
Heather
great.
pointed out,
Yeah.
your buses.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, you gotta get them in, around, parked,
Yeah.
and we don't want the tour bus clogging everything up. So who would you, civil engineer, who do you think would, I mean, it's not a complicated project.
DeWolf,
Yeah.
they're pretty good at it.
They're good and they're structural too, so they could help with the fountain design as far as is it gonna hold together.
Yeah.
Because you can draw it on paper and it may not work,
Mhm. So you get, so I'm just trying to envision the
No,
process, and it's
yeah.
gonna be you all doing it. I'm just trying to understand, so you get the civil engineer to, do a bunch of posters that size. And then at that point, now you've defined the working area. At that point, do you go to some of our artisans and others in the area and say, here's your canvas, now paint it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And say, here's an elevation of it. Design a fountain for us. And then
So
once you get
maybe-
the design, then do you go to the fountain guys and say, okay, here's the site, here's the design. Now design us a fountain that's gonna work.
Yeah,
Give us the plumbing.
The fountain is kind of the least important part of the whole thing. It's gonna be the most important when it gets up.
yeah,
But it's like the last thing you're gonna look at. You're gonna say, okay, cause Heather may come up with a concept and say, okay, this granite, we're gonna do this. But it would look really ridiculous with a 4 foot high fountain that needs the 15 foot high fountain.
right,
And that's when you pick that
right,
and you say, okay, we're gonna need that amount of water, then
Right.
they come in and tell us how to do it.
right,
Okay, so you get the site, you get the rough design, and you may have to go back to the artist and say, all right, this height over here isn't gonna cut it, you gotta
They're gonna,
lower that down.
yeah, the fountain guys will come in and say, all right, well, if you want a 20 foot tall water spear, it's gonna have to be so many feet around.
Right.
Because of,
So is that the
Winds,
process, though,
everything.
like, are those the steps?
I think so. I think we've gotta come up with the concept and then go, the fountain would be last. I don't think you build it from the fountain out. You set the parameters and what the design of it is, and then say, okay, what fountain fits?
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then
that makes sense.
probably you get your site work done. Then talk to the fountain company, say, this is the site, this is, so our pad that we're gonna work on. Right. How big of a spear, or fountain are we gonna look at? You know.
You're
fit
right.
in here.
The higher you go,
Right.
the more
Right.
spray you're gonna
Right.
have.
Right.
And then once you get, all right, we want this high, so we gotta be this wide. Then you take that information and you send that off to
And
the artist, and
And-
says
and
it's gotta be so
what-
far around.
what may happen is too, cause I think it was only 40 feet wide, if I remember
I
right.
think it
40,
was, right.
42, it isn't a ton.
25.
Yeah,
We may have to either shut one of those roads or move both of those roads or something to get a little more there to make it impressive.
yeah,
Care. Well, that's what I'm saying, define the site,
yeah,
this is the most you can do. Because you're really the ones who understand, well, you know where people are buried.
Yeah.
So, okay, you can't do it there. And so other than that, this is your working area. This is all the space you can have, period. So roadway, traffic circuit, here's what you gotta keep in mind, tour buses in and out. Pedestrians in and out, cars in and out. So you've got to accommodate all those things. Obviously you've got to have a standing area outside the fountain or people are gonna get run over. So you may have to have kind of a 3-foot wall and then the fountain, with the space in between the two where people can stand or sit, so they don't get run over.
I'm thinking you may end up not having that road now that goes around the flagpole.
yeah,
Your circle's gonna be turning right and going between the front lawn and Hillcrest and coming around that way. And the same thing on the other side, going around Morningside and coming back. So that whole circle now in the front would be grass with a walking path on either side of your fountain.
And the only thing you got with that is you got people that have existing monuments on those roads facing in. And are they gonna get all nicked off because they
have a
don't be
road.
able to, they can't park in front of that monument? So gotta look at all
They might be happy, they'll have a fountain in the front yard.
that. Yeah, you know how people are.
so do you, okay, so a few things, so are you comfortable with, like, your role as it's been described to
Yeah.
you? Okay,
So you would make contact with a civil engineer?
Yep.
Start there?
okay, so first thing I think we're supposed to do is, we need a motion to begin a working group.
First thing I need to do is get the working group.
Yes, so we need a motion to develop a working group for the Eugene Cozy fountain, with Jeff as the lead person. Period. Period, right? Yeah, oh, yes, I would definitely say, you're comfortable with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're all gonna work with them in like comings and goings of this. Sometimes I'll always be working with them, but people can come on and go off. That's the whole thing with a working group,
Yeah,
right?
we'll just give an update, once a month.
Yeah.
At this board meeting, you'll get an update. Here's
Yeah.
what we did.
Yeah, but if you're interested, you can certainly feel free to send emails. Can't do the group thing, can't do the don't reply all, whatever. You can certainly send emails or call on the phone. There's a novel idea. Call on the phone to find out what's going on. All right, so need a motion
Okay, I'd like to make a motion
for a working group to
to
begin.
organize a working group to begin fountain design
Yep,
with Jeff Bergeron as the point person.
I second.
can have a vote,
All in favor?
all in favor,
Aye.
opposed?
Okay.
And then with the money, Jeff, you'll just have to work through Tom on that.
Okay,
Just so like if, you're gonna get a contract from any civil engineer.
yeah,
Saying, here's what we need, just hand it to Tom
Yeah.
and Nicholas will be fine with it.
Is there anything you wanted to bring up, Jeff, as far as all this goes?
No, I just needed, better idea
Yeah.
of what I'm getting into.
Right.
It's been kicked around for 2 or 3 months now. so.
yeah,
Well, it'll be nice to have a visual, like, to finally just nail down.
Mhm.
Well, here's the area you have to
Right.
work with, and as you work with. A civil engineer, they may give you 2 or 3 ideas saying, well, you could widen this roadway. You can have a circle if you want a circle, but that means your fountain's gotta be a little smaller
Right.
because you gotta accommodate.
We gotta really get with that engineering firm, pick one, work with them and improve that site.
Yep.
Before
Right.
anything else can be done.
Right, that makes sense. And I was gonna ask, so when you do determine when you're gonna meet them at the site,
Yeah,
could you send out an email and let people know when that's gonna be?
Sure.
So that anybody can come that wants to come and hear what's going on,
Yep.
'cause that would be, okay.
So
Right,
what do we
sure.
do? So right now, where do people park? I mean, I've gone to enough. Services at Hope, and you park respectfully along the road,
Right.
staying off the grass. And you wait your turn, and if you're smart, you make sure you're the last one at the service, so you're the first one to back out. If you're dumb, you're packed right in the middle and you're like, oh my God, are those people gonna talk forever? So, I mean, but have we given some thought, we talk about tour buses, we talk about Rock of Ages isn't open anymore.
Mhm.
We talk about places to even queue up to, tour buses, which we don't have. So, and there are, we talk about, well, we mentioned parking earlier. Oh, you mean the expansion area? Like, have we really put a lot of thought into not just the present, but the future of the cemetery, what it's gonna look like 15 or 20 years from now, and whether we should be making some more robust accommodations for parking or changing.
So now that, as far as future lots and all the other stuff with what we have for land, that is what Griever and Warden does. That's what that company out in Rochester does.
Mhm.
And they've been involved in developing the sections as you see them today.
So maybe
we
when
may
we
wanna
go to
talk to them
them, we
about
could
that.
say, well, while you're looking at this site for us. Here's the whole cemetery.
Mhm.
Tell us how we. Make all this stuff. Work so that 10 years from now, people aren't saying, what the hell were they thinking?
Right. Wow, it's
It
true.
looks like a Kmart.
It would be it's gonna be very interesting to see about what we can do at the front entrance, right? What can we do to make that space that we need for the fountain?
Transition.
Transition, yeah. Yeah, but like you said, we gotta consider, there's no stones on this side.
The Calcanis would love it if you wanted to move the entryway.
Down.
I'm sure they'd love us.
Yeah.
Well, and what would you do if someone came up with that idea and said, the best thing you can do is move this entryway.
Cost you a fortune.
Oh,
I know it would
gosh.
cost you a fortune, but, you're talking about an opportunity here that the city has never had. I'd love to think that they'd have it again,
Yeah,
but when you think about, if 10 years from now, again, it's what the hell were they thinking? City's never going to have the resources available to move the entranceway, ever.
No, but I think that's why I've got to get with an engineering firm and say,
Right.
this is where we'd like to put it.
Yep.
yeah,
We'd like to keep this here if possible. How do we transition this to look pleasing
yeah.
and to be functional?
And how do we think about the next
Right.
stage of hope?
Could the roads that border the lawns be widened?
The interior road, Yeah.
Like the one in the front?
your very front road, yeah,
Yes.
certainly, yeah.
Could they be widened
To
to
allow parking?
accommodate parking? As much as I hate to see rows and rows of cars right when you pull up to Hope Cemetery, like that seems, within the cemetery, that seems to be.
And that's basically your only choice is the front roads.
Yeah.
Because you got.
I mean,
the
have you
front
been to
lines are so
Arlington?
wide.
You walk. You walk a long way.
Yeah,
They don't. And if you, I mean, they have buses, obviously, that go through Arlington, but if you're there, if you just wanna really walk around Arlington. You park and you walk,
Yeah.
and you walk a little ways before you get there. And maybe we could have the same thing at Hope. You know, this is where the visitors and, you know, you could have some sculptures, you could have something interesting along the walkway. But you park over here, you know, if you're a tourist.
Yeah.
You park.
Well, we have idle land on both ends of the cemetery, on all
Guys, yeah.
sides of the cemetery.
Mhm.
So maybe it's just talking to,
But
And
again,
engineer.
that's why you gotta start thinking too, if you're gonna use some of that, that's been earmarked for graves down the line. And hopefully people are gonna be alive a long time in this world,
Mhm.
so you gotta really think about,
Yeah,
we don't wanna ruin the
no, we
future.
don't wanna take away from where people could be rested, but there, you know, there's a lot of wooded, the bottom entrance or exit, you know, there's a lot of wood,
Mm.
there's that whole lower section, you know, down by Maple Avenue that
Where the house used to be.
there's just idle,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, that could be parking without being a visual detriment to the entrance or the cemetery.
You could,
How many open graves at Hope? Do you have any idea, Jeff?
How many?
Open graves.
I have no idea.
I mean, that'll be one of the best parts about getting this inventory, so to speak, done, this computer program. There may be, for all we know, there could be 500 graves there where people lived in Barre, bought a grave site, bought 6 grave sites, moved away, died where they moved away, and they're buried there.
Yeah,
They own these sites and they bought, you know, we may see, holy shit, they bought them in 1940 and no one's buried there. We could contact them and say, you wanna sell these back?
We'll give you what you paid in 1940.
You know what? No, we tell them, you know what? If
Yeah.
you give them to the city of Barre, they're worth $1,000 a piece now. You have 6 of them, you get a $6,000 tax deduction.
Yeah.
And they'd probably say, cool.
Yeah,
see, that's the rule now. If, let's say your father bought a lot, you know, in 1940. And he paid $400 for it. If they came to the cemetery now and said, we'd like to sell our lot. Will the cemetery buy it back? Yes, the cemetery will buy it back, but at the price you paid for it in 1940, $400.
yeah.
kind of Russian, isn't it?
Cool.
Okay, so
Good discussion.
I think it was good discussion too. So we've got a plan moving forward. You're gonna contact,
Yep,
are you gonna use DeWolf? Yeah.
I've worked with DeWolf
Okay,
before, yeah.
and you're gonna let us know when you're gonna meet with them. We'll come out there, and not say anything at all, and just listen. To see if that flies. Yeah, what is?
Did I hear that right?
No, that'll be good. Pick a nice day, just kidding. Okay, so we talked on the debt for today.
Absolutely.
Okay, number 6. Number 6, ooh, director's report.
Uh,
I had my arm operated. on that.
yeah, I've been out for like 3 weeks in the last month, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to do anything,
Okay,
any of
so
that.
the only thing I would bring up, I think I would bring up the bus pathways that we talked about with the last meeting,
Mhm.
because September is
September's
looming.
coming up, yep.
So do we still wanna move ahead, Eileen and you and Scott McLaughlin meet? And then sooner than later?
Yeah.
And then we can maybe get the signs done so that we'll be ready to go in September? Does that sound okay?
I should. Other than
When's your first group, I mean?
Thursday, I should be fine for the next foreseeable future.
Okay,
Oh.
okay, all right, so you're gonna do that, and you and Eileen Scott are gonna do that, so
Yeah.
that by the next meeting, September 15th, the sign should be up with any luck at all, right? That isn't even, that's not, it's a month, right? So we're not talking about expensive signage, we're just talking about getting a pathway that works for this.
It could be. It could be possible if everything worked out right.
Okay, okay, so
I wouldn't.
Does that come out of general fund, cemetery general?
It's coming out somewhere.
Well, yeah,
I'm just that,
yeah. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
money's
these
not a
weren't
problem.
permanent, weren't they? They were seasonal?
These are gonna be seasonal, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, cause they're not gonna be like amazingly aesthetically appealing, I don't think. They're gonna be green signs that say
It's like a
bust.
road sign,
Yeah,
street sign.
yeah, so something that Chris Ford could
Mhm.
zoom out and, or
Yeah.
somebody could zoom out in pretty short order and you'd
Yeah.
mount them on those metal posts, that green metal posts, bolt them on and,
A regular signpost.
yeah. Oh, they gotta be up high
Yeah.
enough.
High enough for
High
the bus
for the
drivers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody knows what they're doing about that. Okay, so you guys probably noticed that when I changed it up a little bit from the way that Giuliano used to do his agendas, in the sense that I had additions to the agenda on it. And I'm gonna try to get away from that by sending out the agendas 2 weeks ahead, giving you that whole week to reach out to me and say, I wanna add this. There'll be a discussion about it. Eileen did it with some stuff that's gonna be, we'll probably discuss next month. And so that we don't have that, writing shit down and then trying to, right, so that's why that's changed.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
it worked.
Oh, yeah, and I will send a little reminder out for the meeting, and you'll see the minutes from Eileen. And when I send the agenda to the city, which I plan to do no later than Wednesday, that is my plan of there. All right, so the next meeting's September 15th, 3:30. I will say it's 5 o'clock, and I've got a feeling our meetings will probably extend to 5 o'clock. There's a lot going on, and there's gonna be other stuff that we'll talk about in the month. And I do think we probably will have meetings during the winter, because we have a lot to do. All right, so I would like to move to adjourn. So I need a motion to adjourn.
I did it last time, I'll do it again.
Okay. Yeah, you're
good at that.
I need a second.
1 second.
Okay, so everybody, we have to vote on adjournment too? No, yes,
Yes.
yes, okay,
Yes.
good. All right. Okay, so it's a good meeting. I mean, I feel like we do have a